Welcome to Journey Church. Whether you are here in person or joining us online, I know that you will have an experience of God that will be a blessing to you. The reflection this morning comes from John's Gospel, the 8th chapter, verses 1 through 11, and I'm calling this the sound of dropping stones. But I feel compelled to tell you that I've been feeling rather disheartened lately. Confession is good for the soul, right? So they say. But I think I probably just have the Facebook flu. You know what I mean? That there are far too many stories on Facebook that make me feel queasy, make me sick to my stomach, make me throw up a little bit in my mouth after reading them. Especially the stories that seem to be a recounting of the Pharisees looking to stone anyone that deviates from their notion of who is good, right, moral, clean, sinless, or any of a number of other adjectives that would disenfranchise people. I'm sure many of you read some of the same stories. Stories like the private school that told a little girl she couldn't attend until she dressed in a more godly fashion, to wear a dress like a girl rather than jeans like a boy. Or story after story after story of politicians trying to legislate compassion out and hatred in. Or any number of other racist, misogynist, elitist attempts to exclude rather than include. There are days when it seems like everyone has a stone in their hands just waiting to toss it at the first miscreant they find. What would it sound like if everyone just let their stones drop to the ground? What a righteous rattle that would make. What a thunderous thud John, a follower of Jesus, shares a possibility with us. In the encounter of the so-called tainted woman and the line-drawing sand artist Jesus, which was precipitated by a group of religious leaders out to protect the purity of the faith, we are offered an opportunity to reflect deeply on the superficial blemish that bruised the woman's life. We're invited to compare the blemish that marred her life with the deep rot of the soul that was eating away at the lives of those burdened by the weight of stones held at the ready. What would it sound like if everyone just let their stones drop to the ground? What a righteous rattle that would make. What a thunderous thud. Understand that before the penalty of death could be administered, according to the Talmud, a number of strict requirements needed to be met, including the need for the crime to have occurred before two valid witnesses. One might ask when the real crime occurred. Were there witnesses? And if so, how long did they linger in the observation of the crime? Or was it a sham setup from the beginning? The law also required that both the man and the woman be brought before their judge. Why was it that only the woman was presented to beg for mercy? What would it sound like if everyone just let their stones drop to the ground? What a righteous rattle that would make. What a thunderous thud. In a different story, this time told by Luke, another follower of Jesus, and discovered in the pages of Holy Christian text, Jesus asks the religious leader Simon, "Do you see this woman?" Here's how it goes. One of the Pharisees asked him over for a meal. He went to the Pharisee's house and sat down at the dinner table. Just then, a woman of the village, the town harlot, having learned that Jesus was a guest in the home of the Pharisee, came with a bottle of very expensive perfume and stood at his feet, weeping, raining tears on his feet. Letting down her hair, she dried his feet, kissed them, and anointed them with the perfume. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, "If this man was the prophet I thought he was, he would have known what kind of a woman this is who is falling all over him." Jesus said to him, "Simon, I have something to tell you." "Oh, tell me." Two men were in debt to a banker. One owed 500 silver pieces, the other 50. Neither of them could pay up, and so the banker canceled both debts. Which of the two would be more grateful? Simon answered, "I suppose the one who was forgiven the most." "That's right," said Jesus. Then turning to the woman, but speaking to Simon, he said, "Do you see this woman? I came to your house. You provided no water for my feet, but she rained tears on my feet and dried them with her hair. You gave me no greeting, but from the time I arrived, she hasn't quit kissing my feet. You provided nothing for freshening up, but she has soothed my feet with perfume." Impressive, isn't it? She was forgiven many, many sins, and so she is very, very grateful. If the forgiveness is minimal, the gratitude is minimal. Then he spoke to her. "I forgive your sins." That set the dinner guests talking behind his back. Who does he think he is, forgiving sins? He ignored them and said to the woman, "Your faith has saved you. Go in peace." Do you see this woman? It's not a simple question, Martin Copenhaver, a pastor and now president of Andover Newton Theological School, offered in a presentation during General Synod for the United Church of Christ in 2013. It's not a simple question. It's a probing question. Sometimes people choose not to see. There is, of course, a cost in seeing. If you actually see this woman, you might have to relate to her as a person. One soul to another soul. You might have to respond to her with compassion. You might even have to see that she mirrors God. To be seen, he said, is a basic human need. When you truly see them, you find their note, their connection with God, and we dance with them right there. Shedding cultural filters to see one another and see God in each other provides challenges for all of us. Shedding cultural filters to see one another and see God in each other provides challenges for all of us. But Copenhaver described an encounter that changed his life. He says on another occasion, I stood at an enormous front door waiting to be let in. The house was a bit like a proud dowager who now's a bit down on her luck. From the house, there was a view of the Hudson River. Finally, someone dressed in uniform summoned us inside. We were asked to sign an enormous guest book with yellowed pages that must have gone back years. We were frisked and asked to walk through a metal detector. It's not only hard to get out of Sing Sing prison, it's also hard to get in. Copenhaver and his co-author, the Reverend Lillian Daniels, were there to speak to members of a class of prisoners who were studying to be ministers. Copenhaver says, I tried not to have too many preconceived notions, but I expected that the men in that class would be scornful or cynical about these two suburban pastors who were coming to talk to them. But those preconceived notions disappeared almost instantly. The first question for us was asked was, what is the basis of pastoral authority? You might have thought we were in a class at Yale or Andover Newton. Copenhaver may not have had a well-informed understanding of the penal system, but remarked, this at least I know. It was this picture of Jesus that I carried with me, smuggled in with me. I couldn't have left it behind if I tried. Jesus was asking, do you see this woman? Can you clear away the stereotypes, the preconceptions and the condemnations long enough to see this woman or this man and see the reflection of God? What would it sound like if everyone just let their stones drop to the ground? What a righteous rattle that would make. What a thunderous thud. I would offer that we keep our stones at the ready and our hearts in a similar hardened disposition because we fail to see each other or listen deeply to each other. We far too often choose to turn away from and turn a deaf ear toward others out of a sense of self-protection. What I think we fail to recognize is that isolation from and denigration of other people does not equal protection. So, what would it look like if everyone just let their stones drop to the ground? What a righteous rattle that would make. What a thunderous thud. Just a thought.